Sangye Cherdang Soki Chognam La Jangtu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chernyengi Pe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Drupar Shuk Sangye Cherdang Soki Chognam La Jangtu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chernyengi Pe Sonam Ki Drola Pinche Sangye Drupa Shuk Sangye Cherdang Soki Chognam La Jaktu Bardu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyengi Pe Sonam Ki Drola Pinche Sangye Drupa Shuk.
Thanks, Bob. So just do a couple of minutes meditation on the breath. So now think like this. Since beginningless time, I've been circling through the 6 realms of cyclic existence, samsara, and most of that time, being born in one realm, dying, being reborn in another realm, dying, since beginningless time. And most of those rebirths have been in the 3 lower realms. But even on the rare occasions that I wasn't born in the 3 lower realms, and I was born in the upper realms, I was born as a long life God. And in none of those realms had the opportunity to practice Dharma. And even when I was born human, I was born in a time, place, or with other issues that hindered my practice of Dharma. But this time, I've received perfect human rebirth that has 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses, and gives me every opportunity to practice Dharma to the full. So how fortunate I am. With this perfect human rebirth, I can create cause to be reborn in the upper realms and not be reborn in the lower realms. But that's not enough, because I'm still in cyclic existence and can still get reborn later in the lower realms. Therefore, I should use this life, which I can, to escape from cyclic existence, the beginningless samsara, forever. And attain liberation, nirvana, the everlasting blissful state of peace for myself alone. But neither is that enough, because it still leaves all the other sentient beings in suffering. So with this life, I can also reach enlightenment. And from the enlightened state, I can benefit all sentient beings by leading them to enlightenment. So to reach enlightenment, I have to study, think about, meditate on, and realize the entire path to enlightenment, the lamrim. Therefore, I'm going to study Atisha's text, A Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, first lamrim text, in order to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So like that, just briefly generate bodhicitta, motivation for this morning's session. So we've been studying Geshe Sonam Rinpoche's commentary on Atisha's Lamp for the Path, and now we've reached the final section, the Vajra vehicle, or the Tantric Path. So Geshe-la says, now Atisha speaks briefly about Tantra and answers Changchober's 7th question as to how one enters the door of Mahayana secret mantra. So, secret mantra is another term for Vajrayana or Tantra, Sangha. He also deals with the other questions attributed to Changchober. So he was the Tibetan who invited, Changchober was the Tibetan who invited Atisha to Tibet. If you remember that story from 8 or 9 months ago when we started this. little journey. He answers the other questions regarding whether one may teach secret mantra without having received the Vajra Preceptor Initiation, whether those observing celibacy may take the two actual higher initiations, and whether one may practice secret mantra without receiving initiation. So initiation, or sometimes we call empowerment, Wong Tibetan. Initiation is the entrance to the secret mantra or Vajra vehicle, since it permits and empowers the initiate to practice Tantra. All practices of the great vehicle may be included within the 6 perfections, which in turn are subsumed by skillful means and wisdom. In the practice of highest Yoga Tantra, these two become unified in one taste when the practitioner's very subtle, blissful awareness cognizes emptiness. This is known as the wisdom of inseparable great bliss and emptiness. Tantra is called the Vajra vehicle because the indivisible combination of skillful means of wisdom as a single entity has the adamantine property in all obstructions. There are 4 categories of Tantra: action, performance, yoga, and highest Yoga Tantra. In the first 3 categories, only the Vasa initiation, which includes a number of subsidiary initiations, is bestowed. In action Tantra, the Vasa initiation consists of the water and crown initiations. In performance Tantra, it includes these 2, as well as the Vajra bell and name initiations. These 5 are called the Vajra disciple initiations. In Yoga Tantra, the Vasa initiation may also include the Vajra Preceptor Initiation. The practice of highest Yoga Tantra requires the secret, wisdom, and word initiations in addition to the Vasa initiation. Initiation in action, performance, or Yoga Tantra entails a commitment to observe the Bodhisattva vow. In the case of Yoga Tantra, when the Preceptor Initiation is included, and in the case of highest Yoga Tantra, a commitment to observe both the Bodhisattva and Tantric vows is required. To repeat that, in the case of Yoga Tantra, the third one, when the Preceptor Initiation is included, he just said it's not always included, and in the case of highest Yoga Tantra, the commitment to observe both the Bodhisattva and Tantric vows is required. In all cases, there are additional pledges to keep. In the first 3 categories of Tantra, yoga with and without signs, replaces the stages of generation and completion of highest Yoga Tantra. Yoga with and without signs refers to deity yoga, unaccompanied or accompanied by the understanding of emptiness. It's possible to reach the 10th Bodhisattva stage through the practice of lower classes of Tantra. But in order to gain enlightenment, one must practice highest Yoga Tantra. So again, when just reading this, it's, we can't always exactly understand everything just by reading through it like this. So you need to read it over and over again, think about it, and then read other books explaining Tantra, of which there are many now. And so, as we've said before, you have to read and think, and then think some more and resolve any doubts and come to a conclusion. That's the practice of analytical meditation. And then it's good to memorize some of this stuff that explains exactly what each level of Tantra entails and what these technical terms are. Yoga with and without signs and so forth. What deity yoga is. So in verse 60, Atisha says, if you wish to create with ease the collections for enlightenment through activities of pacification, increase, and so forth, gained by the power of mantra, and also through the force of the 8 and other great attainments, like the good pot. That's not smoking dope, that's talking about a vessel, pot. Although some people, a lot of the hippies used to think that smoking good pot was a spiritual practice. And, Boom Shankar. If you want to practice secret mantra, as explained in the actions of performance, as explained in the action and performance tantras. So there's a comma there. So this actually goes on to verse 62. But just shall I interject with a bit of commentary here? Let's just read these 3 verses and then come back to the commentary. 60. If you wish to create with ease the collections for enlightenment through activities of pacification, increase, and so forth, gained by the power of mantra, and also through the force of the 8 and other great attainments like the good pot, if you want to practice secret mantra as explained in the action and performance tantras, then to receive the preceptor initiation, you must please an excellent spiritual teacher through service, valuable gifts, and the like, as well as through obedience. So then Geshe Solam Rinpoche gives commentary to verses 60 and 61, the first 2 there. These 2 verses define who, in general, is suitable for initiation. Those who, with the intention of creating the great stores of merit and insight necessary for enlightenment, wish to help others by peaceful, increasing, powerful, and fierce activities accomplished through the power of mantra. So there are these 4 activities that Tantra always talks about. Peaceful, increasing, powerful, and fierce or wrathful. Peaceful activity involves pacifying sickness and interferences. We may do this for others or ourselves as part of our service to others. Increasing activity consists of augmenting what is needed, such as life force, positive energy, wealth, and good qualities. Powerful activity is the exercise of control by attracting anything that is required. It may be used to win over those who are hostile to the Buddha and his teaching. This is done gradually and skillfully rather than by force, so that interest and affinity develop of their own accord. Such control is not exercised to exploit or manipulate others, but because the Buddha's teaching is a medicine that cures suffering and brings well-being. The 4th activity, fierce activity, is used towards those who remain harmful and cannot be restrained in any other way. Through these activities, we actualize miraculous powers, such as the good pot, in quotation marks, out of which we can take whatever we wish and whose contents never run dry. We don't have to lug a huge heavy pot around, for this pot of plenty can perform its task even though it is small and light. However, it isn't found lying by the roadside. We have to accomplish it. There are many kinds of powerful attainments, and different versions exist of the 8 mentioned here. The first is the pill. It is prepared from the required ingredients and activated through rituals and mantra recitation. Taken daily, it makes us resplendent, radiant, strong, and energetic, enabling us to accomplish our aspiration, develop higher perceptions. Mental accomplishments come more easily if we're in good physical condition. Activating pills is a tradition still carried on today. And mani pills, I think we've all received those, or many of us have received those, mani pills. You know, the FPMT has this website, Prayers for the Dead. I think you may be familiar with that. If you're not, fpmt.org/PFD, Prayers for the Dead. So when people have died, you can offer their names to His Holiness, and His Holiness includes them in the prayers he makes for people who've passed away, and also Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and then in Rinpoche's house in California, in Aptos. The monks and nuns there, they make tsatsas and also do dedication prayers and other practices for people who have passed away and whose names have been offered on this site, Prayers for the Dead. And then an offering is made to the Tibetan Medical Center, and the people who made the request get sent in the mail a blessing string and some money pills we're talking about that are made and blessed by His Holiness. They do this big ceremony, I think maybe this time of year. They make these tiny little pills, millions of them, and then they're consecrated. His Holiness presides over the rituals during which the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, or Mani Padme Hum, is recited millions of times over the pills to activate them. So these pills are used in different kinds of pills are used in Tibetan medicine. And they're taken, with hot water. Some people irreverently refer to them as dirt pills because they taste a little bit like dirt, but that's not recommended. They're actually blessed, and they have ingredients that have been used for thousands of years. Well, 1,000 years anyway. So then when we do highest Tantra, you'll see in the rituals, people have this little jar of inner offering. So that's made by using inner offering pills, which is another kind of pill. Then there's the Chulen pills that Lama Yeshe used to make. The Chulen pill is when you do like fasting, you do it sort of like a fasting retreat, and all you live on is a little bit of water and 1 or 2 of these pills a day. And the yogis used to live on these pills, and they didn't need to eat ordinary food once you reach a certain level of accomplishment. So Lama Yeshe used to make these pills up in Dharamsala the last couple of years before he passed away, 82, 83. And after the first enlightened experience celebration, a bunch of people went off to do the Chulen retreat, the fasting retreat, living on just these tiny pills. I think one of the students went for like 2 months, and he became like a skeleton. He looked like the fasting Buddha. So Lama Yeshe had photos of him sent to all the centers to inspire people that they too could look like the fasting Buddha if you didn't eat for 2 months. Most people didn't last that long, did 2 or 3 weeks, some people. I didn't do it. Chulen pill, called Taking the Essence. If you look at the website, lamayeshe.com, you'll see there's a little teaching about that and then the list of ingredients. And they contain all kinds of holy objects. It's amazing what Lama put in. But he also put in Earl Grey tea and Chanel No. 5. So it was Lama Yeshe's special modernization of the traditional Chulen pill. Yeah, pills. In Wisdom magazine, we produced a Wisdom magazine in '83. It was going to be the magazine of the FPMT. And Lama Yeshe wanted a magazine to tie the organization together. So now we've had Mandala. So these were the attempted precursors for Mandala. So the first one came out in '83. It's on. You can see it online at lamayeshe.com. I think the whole thing's there. There's an article called "Experiences on the Pill." So a couple of people who did this pill retreat in '82 spoke about their experience of doing that retreat. And there's a photo of Ngawang Chodak, the fasting Buddha guy. Experiences on the pill at lamayeshe.com. Someone's going to put it in the links, I'm sure, in the chat. So anyway, when you have certain tantric accomplishments, you have power to make these pills. So then Geshe says, genuine practitioners of Tantra perform yogas of sleeping, waking, and tasting the nectar daily. So the yoga of sleeping, wake, taste, this come in like the Vajrayogini Tantra. The explanation, teachings on that. After performing the waking yoga each morning, one takes a nectar pill made from special ingredients and activated through rituals to purify the body and particularly the mouth and speech. When such nectar pills are in short supply, one pill may be dissolved in a small quantity of black tea or alcohol, and after it's been blessed, a drop of this solution is placed on the tongue. The old masters, I remember, had a special aura and radiance and were strong, although they did not exercise. This was due to their state of mind and to practices like these. So also the Tibetan Medical Center makes different kinds of pills. There's one called the precious pill, which it's wrapped in its own little bag, sort of brocadey, fancy cloth bag, and it contains all kinds of blessed ingredients. Precious pill. They make many different kinds of pills, as well as the regular medical pills. The second attainment is called the Eye Ointment. When the activated ointment is applied, it makes us clairvoyant, enables us to see treasure hidden underground and to exert control over anything we see. The third attainment is the sword. When activated, we merely need to grasp its hilt and are instantly transported to any Pure Land or celestial realm we wish to visit, faster than air travel. The fourth attainment is the ability to move underground as easily as a fish moves through water. People are reputed to walk through walls. Why shouldn't this be possible too? Okay, so this all sounds like a little like fantasy, but we shouldn't dismiss it. The fifth is flight and the capacity to use space by levitating and walking in the air. The sixth is the feat of making ourselves and others invisible. The seventh consists of taking the essence, which protects from illness and bestows immortality, or at any rate, a long life. So this is what I was just talking about, the Chulen, taking the essence. There are different forms of this practice, all of which do not necessarily require such a high level of accomplishment. Certainly there are practitioners alive today who have for long periods subsisted on flower or mineral essences. So that's the Chulen, taking the essence. The eighth is the fleet foot, which allows us to move at great speed. It's also called Lungom. So you cover vast areas of ground very quickly. I think Alexandra David Neal wrote about this in at least one of her early books. These Tibetan yogis who could travel vast distances in Tibet just in a day. Stable accomplishment of the insights associated with the stage of generation gives rise to these powerful attainments. So in the generation stage, we have to generate ourselves as the deity and have a very clear visualization very clear visualization of ourselves as the deity, with body made of light and holding various implements and with, one face or several faces and all the intricate ornaments and robes and all the aspects of the deity you see painted in tankas. And we also have to visualize our environment as the mandala of the deity. So, and if you've received highest yoga tantra initiation and teachings, commentaries, there are great details describing the mandala of the deity. And we have to be able to visualize that very clearly, every aspect of it, all the east, west, north, south, the doors, and all the other deities inside the mandala. Everything we have to be able to visualize, hold in our mind, where the deity in the middle of this incredible realm. So it's, to be able to do that, it takes incredible amount of meditation practice, and then, studying teachings and practicing, building up the mandala and then holding it. It's so, we have to have a super mind to be able to do that. So when our mind is that well developed, then it's not such a stretch to imagine that we have these other powers and other accomplishments that come with this incredible power of mind over matter. So it's, only through the practice of Tantra that we can develop these abilities. But and developing these abilities and doing these practices is what makes it, the Vajrayana, the quick path to enlightenment. Even if we're unable to reach this stage, we can accomplish a similitude of them by first receiving initiation, doing the practices associated with the mandala into which we've been initiated, and reciting the related mantras the required number of times. After this, we do the practice associated with the particular powerful attainment we wish to gain. Although Tantra is not practiced for this purpose, these attainments can help us to experience physical well-being, actualize insights with ease, work effortlessly and spontaneously for the good of others, and quickly reach enlightenment. If this is what we wish, if we wish rapidly to complete the great stores of positive energy and insight, and are prepared to practice the 4 categories of Tantra in the prescribed way, we're ready to enter the Vajra vehicle. Atisha now discusses how we should set about gaining initiation. So then this verse 62, the third of these 3 verses, which I just read, then to receive the preceptor initiation, you must please an excellent spiritual teacher through service and valuable gifts and the like, as well as through obedience. We must find first, and through all our physical, verbal, and mental activities, please the excellent spiritual teacher from whom we hope to receive initiation. We do this by offering service, respect, and precious gifts, such as jewels, and by demonstrating our obedience. Why? Our accomplishment of powerful attainments depends on the relationship we establish with our spiritual teacher. We therefore need to do what we can to nurture it. The preceptor initiation invests us with authority to rule the kingdom of the teachings. It presages the day when we will embody the teaching ourselves and have the confidence and spiritual authority to perform activities associated with them. In highest yoga tantra, it's part of the Vasa initiation, which permits us to practice the stage of generation. The secret, wisdom, and word initiations permit us to practice the stage of completion. We must receive all 4. Practice of the 2 stages of highest yoga tantra, generation and completion, stops the ordinary occurrence of death, the intermediate state, and rebirth. Central to the practice of the stage of generation is a process by which we vividly imagine substituting the wisdom truth body of a Buddha for death. So this is called taking the 3 kayas as the path. 3 kayas, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Rupakaya. So taking death as the wisdom truth body, the enjoyment body for the intermediate state, and the emanation body, Nirmanakaya, for birth. It's called the stage of generation because we develop and enhance this process, which prepares and ripens us for the stage of completion. The completion stage actually purifies or does away with ordinary birth, death, and intermediate state. So first 2 or 3 years after I did my first meditation course at Kopan, I lived there at Kopan and received a lot of lamrim teachings from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because that's what he was giving. And then I traveled with the lamas in '75 and received, Rinpoche gave about 7 or 8 lamrim courses during that time, and so I received a lot of lamrim teachings. And then in '76, we had to leave Nepal and go to Dharamsala for the summer. And that was where many of us received our first detailed tantric, highest yoga tantra commentaries. We received Chidamani Tara initiation from His Holiness Shrijnana Rinpoche, and he just gave a very brief commentary. We received Vajrayogini initiation from Geshe Ngawang Dage, and he gave a very, very detailed commentary over 10, 12-day period. And received Yamantaka initiation and commentary from Senshab Serkong Rinpoche. And again, he gave quite a detailed commentary. And I transcribed and edited both those commentaries. And just as the sort of lamrim teachings and getting introduced to Dharma kind of blew my mind the first time, receiving these teachings blew my mind for the second time, because I could really, it became so clear how the lamrim is a basis for Tantra, and just how important it is to understand a little bit about the lamrim, at least a little bit, to begin to practice Tantra and to receive these amazing teachings that just took the whole lamrim to the next, to its ultimate level. So, I was so glad that it was 2 or 3 years of lamrim study before I got those teachings, those highest yoga tantra commentaries. And it was just, just generated such faith in the way the whole path is set up. The stage of completion is a yoga practiced by one who is still learning, in which the energy winds are drawn into, rest and dissolve within the central psychic channel through the power of meditation. So we've done it over the years a few times, I think. The seed syllable meditation, has anyone done that with me? The generation of inner heat was a meditation that Lama taught when he taught the 6 yogas of Naropa. Actually, this is just the first of the 6 yogas, the generation of inner heat, or Tumo. And Lama gave a couple of teachings on the 6 yogas of Naropa, which was really on this practice. And it was published in the book by Wisdom called The Bliss of Inner Fire. It has 5 stages: isolation of the body and speech, isolation of the mind, the illusory body, the actual clear light, and the union of the 2 truths. Isolation of body and speech, isolation of mind, illusory body, clear light, and union of the 2 truths. At the end of the natural dissolution of the 4 physical elements in the death process, and increasing subtle states of awareness that occur as we are dying in the ordinary way, the most subtle level of consciousness enters the so-called clear light of death. All coarse conventional appearances have stopped, and only a vacuity appears. When this clear light ceases, we're in the intermediate state. the very subtle energy wind that acted as a mount for the clear light consciousness and the clear light consciousness itself are respectively the main and cooperative causes of our intermediate state body, which is not a body of flesh and blood that can be impeded by normal obstructions. Eventually, our intermediate state existence ends when conception takes place, after which coarser physical and mental elements once more develop. So there's a little book, published by Snowline called Death, Intermediate State and Rebirth, which is Lati Rinpoche's teaching on the death process and, all this stuff that Geshe-la is referring to here in great detail. The 80 things that dissolve during the death process and 25 stages and or the eight stages. It's all explained in great detail there, and something we need to be very familiar with. These three stages are compared to sleep, dreaming, and waking. So death, intermediate state, and rebirth. Sleep, dreaming, waking. As we fall asleep, a dissolution like that which precedes the clear light of death momentarily occurs. All coarser forms of awareness temporarily stop, and only subtle mental consciousness is active. This happens, but of course we don't notice it. This is the clear light of deep sleep. The energy wind which supports this awareness acts as the main cause for the dream body, which manifests as we begin to dream. This dream body is extremely mobile and not subject to obstruction, as is our ordinary body. When we stop dreaming, it merges into our subtle energy wind and mind. We then wake and resume our ordinary physical and mental activities. So each time, we go to sleep, dream and wake, it's kind of like a little death in that these stages arise and we pass through them. But, our mind is too gross to be aware of what's happening. During the stage of completion, the meditator cultivates what corresponds to death, intermediate state, and rebirth as a means of stopping them. These three are known as the basic wisdom, enjoyment, and emanation bodies. They are counteracted by the three bodies of the path in the form of the clear light, the illusory body, and the re-entry of the illusory body into the old body, which acts like a jewel casket. These are cultivated in order to attain the resultant three bodies of an enlightened being. Through actualizing isolation of the body, speech, and mind, the illusory body and the unperfected union, the stages of dissolution that normally occur at death take place in a controlled way as a result of meditation, and the analogous and actual clear light manifest, which replace the clear light of death. In each practice, this occurs through drawing the energy winds into the central psychic channel and by allowing them to rest and dissolve there so that the exalted wisdom of inseparable bliss and emptiness arise. The process becomes progressively refined until the wisdom truth body of an enlightened being is attained. Manifestation of the impure and pure illusory bodies corresponds to and stops our birth as an intermediate state being. The energy wind on which the analogous clear light awareness rides and the analogous clear light awareness itself serve respectively as the main and cooperative causes for the impure illusory body. When we arise from the analogous clear light, the impure illusory body manifests. Eventually, through prolonged practice, the actual clear light is attained, and once we arise from that, the pure illusory body manifests. It is pure in that all obstructions formed by the disturbing emotions and their seeds have been eliminated. When we enter the actual clear light again, we attain the unperfected union of clear light and the illusory body, since the pure illusory body is now part of our continuum. There are 12 analogies that help us to gain an understanding of the illusory body. Such an understanding is said to be both extraordinarily beneficial and fortunate. Understanding illusory body. The illusory body is like a phantom created by a magician, because although it looks like a real body and is complete in all details, it is the product of energy, wind, and mind. Like the moon, whose reflection appears simultaneously in countless pools of water, a single illusory body can appear in many different places to many different beings. It is like a person's shadow because it isn't flesh and blood. Like a mirage, it is in continual motion, and like a dream body, it can move anywhere, independently of our coarse body. Though the illusory body and the body which is the maturation of past actions belong to the same person and are part of the same continuum, they appear to be distinct entities like a voice and its echo. In the case of a pure illusory body, this analogy differs slightly. Just as an echo is separate from the voice that creates it, the pure illusory body can leave behind the body which is its dwelling place. The illusory body appears with its complete mandala, namely its own environment and retinue, just as the whole phantom city of the smell eaters appears. It's like an optical illusion, for though it is one, it can appear as many. Like a rainbow, it is 5-colored, but not solid. In the way that a flash of lightning appears from the clouds, it appears from the ordinary body, or, in the case of the pure illusory body, from the emanated body, which resembles a jewel casket. It arises from the clear light of emptiness, like a fish leaping out of clear water. Inasmuch as its limbs, members, and all its parts are complete, it is like a mirror image of Vajradhara. Of all these, the analogy of the dream body is the closest parallel. The clear light is comparable to sleep, and the re-entry of the illusory body into the old body is comparable to our dream body re-entering our ordinary body. The return of the impure or pure illusory body into the old body, which acts as a precious container concealing it, counteracts ordinary birth. The old body, which can be perceived by all, resumes practices for the attainment of higher paths and activities for others' benefit, such as teaching. So, as I said, this is really intense stuff. You can't absorb it all at a single or even 2 or 3 readings. Verse 63. Through full bestowal of the Preceptor Initiation by a spiritual teacher who is pleased, you are purified of all wrongdoing and become fit to gain powerful attainments. The Vasa initiation in the context of yoga, Tantra and highest Yoga Tantra begins with the flower garland initiation. All living beings have the disposition for enlightenment. So Lama Yeshe's very popular book called Introduction to Tantra, which some of you may have read, is a sort of a broad brush introduction to the kind of philosophy of Tantra, if you like. It doesn't go into these specific details, the Vasa initiation and 5 this and the, the 8 things, all these different technical things. But it's an amazing book to really get a feeling for the essence of Tantra. And then these other detailed commentaries explain, the principles of Tantra. There's an excellent book published by Wisdom of Kurtit Senchab Rinpoche's explanation of Tantra. What's it called? Anyone remember? I forget the title of the book, by Kurtit Senchab Rinpoche, that presents a very clear explanation of all these different things that Geshe-la is mentioning just briefly here by name. Anyway, I forget. The best thing to do is to study the lamrim and be familiar enough with it to be qualified to receive highest Yoga Tantra initiation, and then once you receive that, to receive, take tantric vows, and then receive the commentaries on the deity into whose practice you've been initiated. Whether it's Chakra Samvara or Vajrayogini or Yamantaka, Guya Samaja. And now there are many different commentaries on these highest Yoga Tantric practices that have been published. So,
is it called,
what?
Is it called Tantric Grounds and Paths?
No. I don't think so.
Okay.
There is a book like that by Ian
I don't know
Cogles.
about a book, but there's a long series of on Vimeo. There's a teachings by Kurtit Senchab Rinpoche with that name.
Yeah. So, and Tantric Grounds and Paths is one of the topics studied in the basic program, I think. But often Geshe Tsulga didn't teach Tantric Grounds and Paths. He taught Sutra Grounds and Paths. But actually in the basic program, it's supposed to be Tantric Grounds and Paths. I don't know, somebody look it up, Kurtit Senchab Rinpoche, translated by Ian Coglan and Vula Zapani, published by Wisdom. The Vasa initiation in the context of Yoga Tantra and highest Yoga Tantra begins with the flower garland initiation. All living beings have disposition for enlightenment. This initiation determines our specific disposition by indicating the lineage of the victorious one to which we have a particular affinity, thereby providing useful guidance to the spiritual teacher on how to take care of us. This is followed by the sometimes you get one of the students called up to drop the stick, and you see which which of the so-called Buddha families you belong to, Akshobhya, Amitabha, Ratnasambhava, Vairocana, which of the 5 Buddha families, and then you get your tantric name. So this is followed by the 5 initiation related to the 5 victorious ones. The water initiation is associated with Akshobhya, who embodies purification of the water element, one of our 5 physical constituents. It prepares us to eliminate conceptions of true existence and the stains that hide our particular disposition. Then the crown initiation is given. So you remember, if you've been there, these different implements passed it out, or the monks walk around bopping you on the head with different things. Then the crown initiation is given, related to Ratnasambhava, who embodies the purified earth element. It implants the potential to become a victorious one of the lineage to which we belong, creates predisposition to gain the crown protrusion of a Buddha and to be crowned by the head of the lineage. The accompanying silk scarf initiation prepares us to uproot completely the inimical disturbing emotions. The Vajra initiation establishes predispositions to accomplish a Buddha's wisdom of inseparable bliss and emptiness, and is associated with Amitabha, whose enlightened great bliss arises from desire and who represents purified desire. The bell initiation predisposes us to accomplish a Buddha's speech, from which flow the 84,000 kinds of teaching. Since using their speech to give teachings is the supreme activity of Buddhas, this initiation is associated with Amoghasiddhi, the embodiment of enlightened activity. Next is the name initiation, which establishes the cause for attaining the name of an enlightened being. Since a name is sound and therefore form, this initiation is associated with Vairocana, embodiment of purified aggregate of form. So then Geshe-la goes on for a few pages, giving the details of all these different aspects of the highest yoga initiation and the imprints they create to receive certain results. So we don't have time to go into that right now. But really, we've been going through this book for months, so I think it's really useful to get a copy and to read it and study it and meditate on it in future, because we've just been able to touch briefly on these points, and so what we've been doing is just the very barest sort of introductions to these teachings. So then verse 64 says, because the great Tantra of the primordial Buddha yes, it just mentions the name of the text in Tibetan and Sanskrit. Because the text, the great Tantra of the primordial Buddha, forbids it emphatically, those observing pure conduct should not take the secret and wisdom initiations. Laypersons who have vowed to observe celibacy, as well as 5 kinds of ordained persons, novice monks and nuns, female trainees in virtue, and fully ordained monks and nuns, should not give or receive the actual secret and wisdom initiations. This restriction, expressly stated in the Great Tantra of the Primordial Buddha, applies to ordinary people, not to those with high realizations. Peacocks thrive on poisonous plants, which simply enhance the color and luster of their feathers. The crow, ambitious to imitate the peacock, dies of poisoning. So this is to do with taking a physical consort, which ordained people shouldn't do. Or ordinary people probably shouldn't do either. Verse 65, if those observing the austere practices of pure conduct, which means vows of celibacy, etc., were to hold these initiations, their vow of austerity would be impaired through doing that which is proscribed. 66, this creates transgressions which are a defeat for those observing discipline. Since they are certain to fall to a bad rebirth, they will never gain accomplishments. Geshe-la, if those who have vowed celibacy give or receive these initiations, they transgress their vow not to engage in sexual activity, which is proscribed for them. By doing what is proscribed, they impair their vow and break the discipline they have promised to observe, thereby creating a defeat which leads to a bad rebirth. They may give and receive the secret and wisdom initiations using the power of visualization and imagining union with a consort and so forth. If they are not permitted to take the actual secret wisdom initiations, they may nevertheless perform tantric. May they nevertheless perform tantric activities? That's a question. 67. There is no fault if one who has received the preceptor initiation and has knowledge of suchness listens to or explains the tantras and performs burnt offering rituals or makes offerings of gifts and so forth. Provided they've received the preceptor initiation and have skill in the 10 aspects of reality, they may listen to and teach the tantras, make tantric offerings, bestow initiation, perform burnt offering rituals, consecrations, and the 4 kinds of activities. They may also accomplish and use the 8 powerful attainments. Not only is there no fault if they do this, it is extremely beneficial. So we have His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all these, celibate monks actually performing performing these initiations and giving them, but they don't take physical consort. A verse from Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyaltsen's offering to the spiritual teacher, Guru Puja, describes the qualities of such a precept, describes the qualities such a preceptor needs. I make requests to the Supreme Vajra holder, who controls the 3 doors, is intelligent, patient, honest, without deceit or pretense, who knows mantra and tantra, and is skilled in both sets of suchness, in drawing and explaining. So you'll recognize that verse from the Lama Chöpa. Authentic tantric preceptors use mindfulness and mental alertness to exercise control over their physical, verbal, and mental activities. They have great intelligence and practice the 3 kinds of patience by not taking account of harm inflicted, by willingly accepting hardships, and by gaining certainty with regard to the teachings. They are honest and sincere in their dealings with others and are free from deceitfulness and pretense. They have a profound understanding of mantra and tantra, which they can explain clearly, and are able to employ the methods described in tantra to free their students from interferences. There are 10 inner and 10 outer aspects of suchness or reality with which well-qualified tantric preceptors should be conversant. Those who confer initiation of the action, performance, and yoga tantras need skill in the outer aspects, while those who confer highest yoga tantra initiations should be skilled in the inner ones. So it's where they refer to the both sets of suchness. So we went through these in when we did some classes on spiritual teacher. It was a while ago. But if you read, 50 verses of Guru devotion, these different qualities of spiritual teacher explained there. And in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on the 50 verses of Guru devotion called The Fulfillment of All Hopes, I think that's what it's called, translated by Gareth Sparham, published by Wisdom, Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on the 50 verses. The first of the 10 outer skills consists of meditating on the mandala with and without form. This refers to the external mandala, namely the residence and the deities within it, both of which have form, and the internal mandala, the wisdom of bliss and emptiness, which is formless. The second is to maintain meditative stabilization of oneself as the deity within the mandala. The third is proficiency in the various hand gestures for offering adornments to the deities. The fourth skill is the performance of ritual dance. The fifth is the ability to assume a wide variety of postures, such as the Vajra posture. The sixth is in mantra recitation. The seventh is in conducting peaceful, increasing, powerful, and fierce burnt offering rituals. The eighth is in making outer, inner, and secret offerings. The ninth is in performing peaceful, increasing, powerful, and fierce activities, as well as giving protection and inviting different kinds of guests. The 10th is in concluding rituals and sending guests back to their different dwelling places. The first of the 10 inner skills, so we have to learn how to do all these things. The first of the 10 inner skills is the ability to create protection circle in meditation to rid others of obstacles. The second is to draw mandalas, which can be worn as protection amulets. The third is skill in giving the secret initiation, and the fourth is in giving the wisdom initiation. This implies the need for competence in giving the other initiations as well. The fifth skill is proficiency in separating enemies of the teaching from their protectors and the tutelary deities in order to stop their harmful activities. The sixth is the art of offering ritual cakes, the tormas, to worldly and supramundane guests. The seventh is expertise in the different forms of mantra recitation. The eighth is in the use of coercion when practices associated with the stage of generation, such as visualization and mantra recitation intended to actualize the deity, have been properly performed without success. The ninth skill is in consecrating representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind and prayer beads. The 10th is competence in activating the mandala, making offerings, entering the mandala, and performing self-initiation. Tantric teachers who possess all these abilities are very rare. So that's why the Geshis who are on the highest Geshe track, the Larampa Geshe track, they go to Tantric college, upper or lower Tantric colleges. So upper and lower doesn't mean higher or lower in attainment. It was where they're geographically situated in Lhasa. So I always forget which is which. One was at the Rinpoche temple, which is a temple in Lhasa associated with the Panchen Lama. And the other one was near the Jokam. Gyuto and Gyume. So that's where they learn the Geshis, then they learn all these different tantric rituals, how to do these different activities. In the final verse of Atisha's Lamp for the Path, I, the elder Dipamkara Shri, having seen it explained in Sutra and other teachings, have made this concise explanation at the request of Changchub Er. And Geshe-la says, Atisha, the crown jewel of the exalted in the sacred land of India, ends the lamp by stating that this concise exposition of what he himself saw explained in Sutra, Tantra, and in the works of the great masters was written at the request of Changchub Er. It is concise in that he has summarized the essence of Sutra and Tantra, presenting it in a clear and succinct way for meditation and practice. He refers to himself as an elder, one who has maintained his vows for a long time. Atisha gave these teachings to Domtompa, who in turn passed them on to 3 others. They were handed down in their entirety from teacher to student, like the precious contents of one vessel poured completely and with great care into another. Tsongkhapa's series of texts on the stages of the path to enlightenment are all commentaries on the lamp. Today, these texts still form part of a rich living tradition in which we can participate. In the colophon, this concludes the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment by the great master Dipamkara Shrijnana. It was translated, revised, and finalized by the eminent Indian abbot himself, Atisha, and by the great reviser, translator, and fully ordained monk, Gewe Lodro. This teaching was written in the temple of Turling in Shangjung. So Shangjung is in far western Tibet, in Turlung, Saparang and Turling are there. I went there in 95 actually, to Turling. It was just amazing to be there. A place where Atisha came and gave these teachings. So Geshe-la says, Atisha wrote the lamp between 1042 and 1043 at Turling Monastery in Western Tibet. He himself worked on the translation, revising and finalizing it with the translator Gewe Lodro, a student of the great translator Rinchen Zangpo. With dedication, may the lamp of the teachings continue to burn brightly and its light suffuse the world, banishing even our darkest shadows. So the Khunu Lama Rinpoche's commentary, which actually is quite brief, he gives commentary on verses in clumps. And his commentary on these last verses, which we've been looking at, 60 to 67, Khunu Lama Rinpoche says, having realized emptiness, we can also gain the realizations of Tantra, such as the 4 powers of pacification, wrath, control, and increase, and other attainments, such as accomplishment of the good pot. Accomplishing the good pot means doing a particular meditation retreat for a long time, and if we're successful, gaining the ability to just put our mouth to the opening of a pot and say something like, may I be the king of this country, and have our wish fulfilled. Or we can gain the tantric power of the eye medicine. If we accomplish this just by applying a special ointment to our eye, we can see precious substances such as gold, jewels, and so forth, even hundreds of miles beneath the surface of the earth. No matter how far away we can see them. Through the practice of Tantra, we can receive enlightenment without having to undergo many great austerities. Tantric way to enlightenment is through happiness. Other paths to enlightenment are through hard, austere practice. There are 4 different levels of Tantra action: performance, yoga, highest yoga Tantra. First, we have to receive initiation. In order to do so, we have to make material offerings such as gold, or even members of our family, a spouse or a sibling, and with great devotion request our guru to give us the initiation. If he's pleased, out of his compassion, he will give us the initiation. Having taken it, we also receive the great fortune of being able to attain enlightenment and all the high realizations that come with it. In highest yoga Tantra, there are 4 different initiations: the vast, secret, transcendent wisdom and word initiation, the last being where the guru imparts clarification or proof through verbal explanation. However, secret initiation should be not given to those living in ordination. If monks, for example, take the secret initiation, they have to leave the monastic order because those who have taken the secret initiation are required to practice with a female consort. If they do these practices without first returning their ordination, they lose it, the consequence of which is rebirth in hell. So you can do these, monks can do these practices mentally, just not physically. To receive tantric commentary, it's very rare that someone is qualified to do these physical practices anyway. It said that the previous life. So there are 2 Serkong Rinpoches. There was the one, Sanchab Serkong Rinpoche, who I mentioned many times, whose commentary, whose commentary on the Lamp for the Path we looked at briefly, found at Alex Berzin's website, studybuddhism.com. He was a debate partner of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we received a lot of teachings from him. And we also looked at his commentary on Ganden Lagema, Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga. So he lived in Dharamsala. His father was the previous life of the other Serkong Rinpoche, Serkong Dorji Chung, who lived in Kathmandu. It's Swayambhu. So his previous life, previous Serkong Dorji Chung, who lived in Tibet, in the early, 100 years, more than 100 years ago. He was a monk, but then he wanted to do this highest yoga tantric practice with a consort. So he received permission from the 13th Dalai Lama to disrobe so that he could engage in these highest yoga practices with a physical consort, female consort, and he was able to do these completion stage practices like that. And I guess he attained enlightenment in that lifetime doing that. And then in his next life, he was Sekong Dorji Chung. I don't know when Sekong Dorji Chung came out of Tibet. We have a photo of both Sekong Rinpoches together. I think when Senjab Sekong Rinpoche came to Nepal, he came to Kopan and gave Rinjung Gyatso series of initiations over a couple in 77 and 78. And we have photos of the lamas together, and we have photos of Senjab Sekong Rinpoche at Kopan. So it's very rare. I mean, there's this one example that people quote from Tibetan history, that there's one highly accomplished yogi monk who's got permission to disrobe so he could do this highest practices. So it's, we see these tankas of the deities, in male and female deities in union. We think it's quite common sort of practice, and I'd like to do that. If you want to do it, you have to get permission from the Dalai Lama. It's going to be pretty rare that someone's qualified to do that. So Khunu Lama Rinpoche concluded his teachings on this. Every lamrim teaching ever written refers back to this text, a lamp for the path, irrespective of the Tibetan tradition. What does the lamp itself refer back to? That is to the Buddha's Prajnaparamita teachings. In terms of Prajnaparamita texts, there are elaborate, intermediate, and short, but the author of all of them, is the Buddha. Therefore, all lamrim texts have their source in the teachings of the Buddha. If you want to understand the lamrim well, you should study it as extensively as possible. When you understand the lamrim well, you'll understand the lamp for the path. Once you do, you should teach it all over the world. So he's giving this advice to us, to this, 8 or 10, 12 Western monks or nuns who attended this teaching in Bodhnath in 1975, translated by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I've forgotten he'd said that, so now I'm fulfilling this request. I mean, I'm not really teaching it, I'm just reading somebody else's book, but I'm pretending. There are many aspects of Mahayana tradition, but in general, it contains great knowledge. The main thing, however, the fundamental thing, is concern for others, working for others, benefiting others. Followers of the Hinayana are mainly concerned about their own samsaric suffering. In order to escape it, they follow the path of the 3 higher trainings: higher conduct, higher concentration, higher wisdom. There are many ways to explain how the Mahayana is different from and higher than the Hinayana, but the main difference is that Mahayana practitioners are more concerned with working for the welfare of others than their own. People nowadays might think of helping others, but people nowadays might think of helping other people, but Mahayana practitioners benefit not only other people, but also suffering hell beings, predators, animals, every other sentient being. There's not one sentient being who's not been our mother. All sentient beings have been our mother numberless times. Therefore, we should be concerned for their welfare, wanting them to become enlightened as quickly as possible. This then is the fundamental difference between the Hinayana and the Mahayana. This concern more for others than oneself, in particular, the wish to enlighten all sentient beings. That's what makes the difference. It is excellent that you are studying the vast and profound teachings of the Mahayana, thinking about them, analyzing them intently, and you should continue to do so. In general, there are many religions, and everyone thinks that the teaching of his or her own religion is the best. But just saying that one's own religion is the best doesn't prove it's the best. That doesn't mean anything. Therefore, simply saying that Buddha Dharma is the best religion in the world doesn't make it so. However, there are many logical reasons you can use to prove that Buddha Dharma is, in fact, the best. For example, even accepting and practicing bodhicitta is very different from not accepting or practicing bodhicitta. Even in this, there's a big difference between Buddhism and other religions. Just the fact of the presence of the practice of bodhicitta shows that Buddhism is higher than other religions, that Buddhism is the best. But Buddhism also talks about dependent origination and emptiness. It explains dependent origination as it exists right there. So not only in conduct, but also in view, Buddhism is very different from other religions and therefore the best. There are many ways to prove this. Anyway, Buddha Dharma is something that the more you study it, the deeper it becomes, the more profound you find it to be. This is a quality unique to Buddha Dharma. With other teachings, the more you study them, the lighter they become. If you've understood any of what I've taught here, keep it in mind and build upon it. When you have understood more, keep that as your foundation and build further upon that. In this way, your knowledge will continually increase. Then, like the sun rising, spread Dharma in the West. There are many countries, such as Vietnam, where Buddhism existed for centuries, but none were like Tibet. In those countries, there existed only one aspect of the Buddha Dharma, not all. But in Tibet, all aspects of the teaching existed: Hinayana, Sutrayana, and Vajrayana. In order to study all this, you should learn the Tibetan language, study its grammar, and follow your Lama properly. Then there were dedication prayers, and then we tried to make offerings to Khunu Lama Rinpoche. And then he said, please don't offer me anything. I have enough to eat and drink. That's all I need. The reason I've given you this teaching is not to receive something, but for you to practice purely. I'm not building monasteries or making offerings to statues and so forth, so I've no need for money. I accept offerings only when I lack something. When I have enough, I don't accept offerings, especially not from monks and nuns. My idea of wealth is different. Otherwise, teaching and taking money is a bit like making business. For now, I just want you to practice. But if things get bad and I don't have enough to eat or drink, then maybe I'll accept something. Then Rinpoche passed away a couple of years later. So we have his book, don't we? Translation also by Gareth Parham. As vast as the heaven, deep as the sea. Thank you. Bill holding it up there. So that's the end of this road. This little path. So next Sunday I'll be off, and then I think Geshe will start teaching.
So Nick, I just want to say something.
Sure.
I didn't realize today was the last class. We were planning to make an offering for you because what you've done for us is just wonderful. I'm so appreciative of
Hey,
everything.
I have enough to eat and drink like Khunu Lama.
Right. Well, anyway, we have an offering, but it will be coming late because we're just still organizing it.
I don't need offering, you know.
You can offer it back.
Okay, anyway, I appreciate the thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Nick.
So, you know, just through Geshe-la's accident, you know, this opportunity arose, for which I'm very grateful. I don't really expect much benefit to anybody else, but really useful for me to think about Dharma now and then. So, so that was good. But, you know, as I've said 100 times, you know, I recommend getting this book and studying it again because, you know, Geshe Sonam Rinpoche is such a great teacher, and he and Ruth Sonam combined to publish many books. I don't know if there's a list somewhere, but many of the important texts they published together. And, you know, they're all worth having, definitely. So, you know, we generated bodhicitta at the beginning of this, all the sessions that we've done. And the action was studying Atisha's Lamp for the Path, the first lamrim teaching, with different lamas' commentaries and a few tangents here and there. So I think we really created a lot of merit over these however many months it was. So not just today, but all the merit that we've created over this time, we should pile up and rejoice over and dedicate, you know, because of this merit, I quickly reach enlightenment for the sole purpose of enlightening all sentient beings. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bob.
Saji perki juksing metok tram re rab ding jini degen pa de sange jing du mingte urwagi gokun mam dag jing la cher pa shog je tun la me kutse rab ten ching nam ka trin le chok chur ge pa dang lo sang ten pe dren me sasum gi dro he mun sel tak tu ne kyur chig idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chen Rezig remain in life till samsara's end. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Through this virtue, may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Mei tse wei ter chen chen rezik, dream kien pe wang po jam pel yang, gang chen ke pe su gen song ka pa, lo sang drak pe Jahabla Sohade. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, so thank you again, everybody.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Somebody pull the plug.
All right. Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you.